Greetings all! Today we will be examining the relatively rare bug water-type Pokemon Wimpod, the Turn Tail Pokémon, and its exceptionally rare evolution Golisopod, the Hard Scale Pokémon. Though they might come off as little more than cowardly creatures to many at first, the members of the Wimpod family are unique creatures that can more than end up as a terrifying force to face in close quarters combat.
Wimpod have low-lying bodies with 3 pale grey body segments and head, with brown triangle markings pointing towards their back end on each of the main body segments. Their back end is adorned with a 4-barbed purple tail, with their tiny legs hidden underneath their flat body, their head having grey eyes with yellow sclera, a purple anterior border at the front of their face, a pair of purple antennae, and a small spiny fringe on the front of their face where their mouth parts are located. The evolved form Golisopod have much more massive forms with a bipedal walking stance, moving around on 2 relatively small and thin feet with a single black claw on each foot, while the body has bulked up with a hard grey outer exoskeleton with upturned spines along the edge of the upper torso and purple inlay where the muscles have been stretched and expanded. 4 of the upper limbs have not grown much and hang off of their upper body, while the remaining pair have morphed into a pair of massive limbs with gauntlet-like exoskeletal plating and a pair of massive black claws on each arm. Plus, the front edge of their head has turned a vibrant purple color, while the grey eyes have become cross-shaped with black sclera.
Wimpod and Golisopod are related to giant isopods, but have managed to grow to an extraordinary size without having to live in deep ocean floor environments.
Wimpod in particular mainly feed on detritus on the seafloor and are not a major target of predatory attack, but because the ocean bed of the regions they occupy are often scraped clean by Pokemon like Pyukumuku, these arthropods have to go onto land in order to get the food they need to survive, though their bodies are able to handle the change in pressure very easily. However, these creatures do not have much in the way of offense to offer to be true predators, so they rely on scavenging in order to get the food they need, and the digestive system is built to be able to handle any type of garbage or carrion, no matter how diseased or rotten it may be.
This actually makes Wimpod highly valued by the beach-going communities of the Alola and Galar regions, as it means that they can easily clean up any garbage or washed up bodies off of the beaches and or around their nests and keep them completely clean.
While this makes for a tenuous lifestyle, thankfully, the few that manage to finally reach the point of adulthood are rewarded greatly for their patience, as Golisopod are among the most powerful of bug-type Pokemon known and can more than prove to be a violent force on any battlefield. This is most noticeable with their hyper-developed primary appendages, having morphed into retractable dual-clawed structures capable of smashing through armor, cleaving air and seawater in half, and cutting flesh and muscle tissue to ribbons with just a flashing strike from said claws, making them the creatures' greatest weapons in battle. Though their large form limits their movement speeds, it still results in a striking increase in mobility, their new, more humanoid-like bodies enabling for greater attack variety and execution, thus allowing them to learn a host of new moves that can make them a serious threat up close. As far as their abilities go though, this family has a recurring trend to how they perform in battle, as while the names of the abilities they have are different, with Wimpod having exclusive access to the Wimp Out ability and Golisopod the Emergency Exit ability, they both have the same effect. When their HP is reduced to less than half of its maximum value, they will either instantly flee from a wild battle or force themselves to switch out with another Pokemon in a trainer's party, helping them to escape and fight another day if needed. Furthermore, in looking at their stats, it is quite clear that Golisopod are not to be taken lightly in any battle. While the base special attack and speed stats both suffer from their limited values and are indeed below average for their assigned types, they at least have a decent amount of stamina to work with, their base HP stat being above average for a fully evolved bug-type Pokemon, and the armored carapace and powerful claws more than give them an edge in close quarters, with their base attack, defense, and special defense stats being above average for a fully evolved bug and water-type Pokemon. Even if their abilities can be taken advantage of, these beasts can take a beating and more than give it back several times over. Sadly for Wimpod, while they can whirl their legs at high speeds to scurry around at an incredible pace, their other base stats across the board are quite terrible, and they only have access to a struggle bug attack and sand attack and defense code techniques for defense. As a result, while they tend to move around in large swarms, they are still incredibly skittish and will generally keep a cautious lookout on their surroundings at all times and flee the moment they feel threatened in the slightest or after they have received substantial damage, which is particularly referenced in their Wimp Out ability.
The cowardly nature of these beasts can make it hard to capture them, as they are fairly resistant to the effects of capture devices, and it is a trait that they will retain throughout their lives with no serious change.
Even sudden movements and loud noises are enough to send these critters skittering away, oftentimes kicking up so much sand and debris with their tiny legs that they leave a clean trail of barren rock in their wake. If they are cornered, these creatures can release a toxic fluid from their mouths that can sting when applied to bare skin, but is mainly used as a warning for the Wimpod, as the scent that the liquid gives off is read by their senses as a trigger warning of a potential threat nearby, and thus a cause to hide immediately. Despite their extreme cowardice, Wimpod are still naturally curious creatures, and will often sneak up on Pokemon and humans when they are not paying attention to observe them. This can often prove to be the only chance that a trainer has at catching them, as they will scuttle away immediately when they realize they have been spotted. Unfortunately for them, while they do occasionally come across rare items like pearls, nuggets, and rare coins as a result of their curious natures, the latter attracts Pokemon like Meowth and Murkrow that have fun tormenting these creatures if they are in possession of such a shiny object, forcing them to hide in the holes they dig into rock walls until they feel that it's safe to return to the outside world.
While they still retain the same basic anatomy as the isopod relatives, the movement capabilities of Golisopod far outweigh those of Wimpod.
For one thing, the direction of joint movement in their limbs has changed, allowing them to move the legs and primary attacking claws on free swivel joints to point them in different directions and maneuver the limbs to reach up and down relative to the perpendicular position they normally occupy on their body frame, though this comes at the cost of much ground movement speed and consequently half of their original base speed stat. Their lower abdomen has further been rendered protected by an outgrowth of exoskeleton material, and their back armor plates have thickened immensely to the point of acting as a suit of armor harder than diamond. Moreover, an awakening of predatory instinct that comes with evolving Wimpod not only radically alters their bodies in this fashion, but also their personality somewhat, as they become quite confident in their power and enjoy using their intimidating appearance to frighten opponents so much that they have learned to utilize it as a priority attack, known as the first impression attack, which they gain access to immediately after evolving, and involves them quickly dashing into the faces of their opponents without warning and scaring the daylights out of them before striking suddenly and fiercely. It might only work on the first turn of a battle, but it is nonetheless a devastating blow, as it is the strongest priority attack available to any Pokemon, and is made even more dangerous by these creatures' penchant for doing whatever it takes to win their fights, taking advantage of whatever openings are presented to them, and preferring to finish off opponents with the smaller claws on their front limbs. This can often lead them into a bitter rivalry with Pokemon that make nests in the same sunken ships and seabed holes they make their nests in, with this going so far with Pokemon like Graplocked as deciding which opposing fighter will be eating the other for a meal.
Despite this though, these creatures by nature are still somewhat skittish, which is highlighted in their signature ability Emergency Exit. It works the same as the ability before evolution, but it is differentiated as a separate ability in execution, as the act of fleeing on their part is not done out of fear, but in an attempt to recuperate and form a new strategy against opponents.
Aside from going out to hunt for prey when they are hungry, these gigantic creatures take a break from fighting against others with their six-clawed limbs, so they can relax and meditate within the caverns at the bottom of the sea they use as homes. Because of this, Golisopod generally are not seen as threats to humans, and have even been observed traveling and protecting younger Wimpod, and even playing with young children when on land, giving them a more benevolent appearance than their brutish form and offenses might suggest. Regardless, these creatures can be dangerous to use if you don't know how to control their immense strength, and should thus be left in the hands of experts to train.
As a bug type myself, I can tell you that while most seem to conform to the general anatomy we are supposed to have, that doesn't always prove to be the case. Wimpod are quite cute if you ask me, and deserve a lot more positive attention than they tend to get, if only because they're usually too skittish to make themselves more of a public presence. Them I don't mind. As for Golisopod though, no, screw those beasts. To say they're ugly or monstrous wouldn't exactly be a fair judgment call, but while they can be peaceful if you keep your distance and don't bother them too much, when they get aggressive, it can be a nightmare to fight them off. Even with their hefty physical bulk and power, they can still take special hits pretty well, so it's not one of those cases where special attacks will get you through unscathed. Point blank, these arthropods can be a terror to have to deal with and a real pain to overcome. And even if you think you can take advantage of their ability to force a switch out to keep them from attacking as a wise move, you'll regret it. With First Impression, which is the most powerful attack they learn naturally, forcing them to switch out merely gives them the chance to use the priority attack at least twice. So unless you can brute force your way through that pwn attack, you're in for a world of hurt if you think you can use their ability against them.
Humble beginnings might be how they start out at, but just as with many Pokemon in those same veins, like Magikarp and Feebas among others, the members of the Wimpod family can prove to be quite the force to be reckoned with if raised properly. While they might have their fair share of weaknesses and can be mitigated somewhat by abusing their abilities, there is still no doubt that challenging one of these titanic isopods is a foolish notion at best.
Do yourself a favor and try to play nice with these creatures when they are young in the wild, and make sure they are taken care of. Even if you aren't the one responsible for it, if anything or anyone near you decides to play rough with a Wimpod, you may only be moments away from being charged at by their massive evolution and shown in vicious fashion how badly these cataclysmic crustaceans can tear you apart limb from limb without so much as a warning shot.
Thank you all for watching this video. It is always a pleasure to help teach others about the world of Pokemon and the many facets of it that exist in both the world we call home and the world they call home. If you'd like, please leave a comment and subscribe and ring the bell to this channel to get regular updates on content and anything else that might be going on. You can find me and my written work on DeviantArt under the name Untitled, and be informed of information and content uploads on my Twitter page and my Patreon page. Donations are always welcome. Always remember, the world of Pokemon is a vast and varied place, and there's no telling what secrets might be hiding just around the corner. So keep watch, stay vigilant, and always prepare for the unexpected. Until next time, have a wonderful rest of the day.